In this example, I'll be showing you how we can use geo-referenced imagery to bring our construction drawings directly into CivilPro so that we've got context when we're sketching up our lots and creating lot maps. In order to follow along with this process, we'll need our construction drawing set, which will include our, say, roading drawings or general arrangement drawings, as well as our control line information and coordinates, for example, the set out tables or the geometry tables within. I'll also be using a third-party software called QGIS, open source, freely downloadable, to undertake this geo-referencing process where we add that spatial information to our construction drawings. It is a slightly technical thing to do, so it may be worth touching base with your surveyors and asking if you can get them to either do this process or to give you guidance on this as well. I did it, so you can do it, so let's go. Firstly, here we have a set of construction drawings, and the key drawings that we'll need to have here are our alignment drawings like this, and also the corresponding control line tables like this. On this page here, we can see specific coordinates, eastings and northings, for the control lines on our construction drawing. And on this general arrangement sheet, we can see those control lines, and we can also see the specific locations where we have known coordinates on those control lines. So we'll be using those in QGIS. Important information also on here as well is the survey data. This will be presented similarly on your construction drawings, but this survey data here is very important in telling us what the coordinates are in the local coordinate system. This will be very important when we convert from this coordinate system into the coordinate system that CivilPro presents the imagery in. And this transformation is what we'll be managing within QGIS. As mentioned, QGIS is an open source, freely downloadable platform. I can't guarantee that within your organization, your IT will allow you to download and install this. If that is the case, you might have to sit out the rest of this. Right, before we can get working in QGIS, we're going to need to take some images of our construction drawings. So what you can see on my screen here is the construction drawing that I want to be presented in CivilPro. I've enlarged it in this PDF viewer to the largest resolution possible to try and preserve that as best I can. You can, if you want to, crop this in your PDF viewer and then save it as an image file, a PNG or a JPEG, or you can just use Windows Shift S on a computer or your snipping tool. And we just want to capture everything from within the join lines, just so we don't get overlapping between construction images laid side by side. Perfect, that looks good. I'm going to save that. Opening up that snip, I'm going to save that as construction drawing. Sweet, now that we've got that construction drawing saved, you can repeat for additional construction drawings, but for the purpose of this, you may want to go through the process first, get it into CivilPro, and then reevaluate if you've done anything wrong. We'll jump into QGIS now. What we're going to use QGIS for is importing those images, nominating the known coordinates of points on those images, and then QGIS will output a world file. The image file and the world file go into CivilPro, and then CivilPro will understand where to place that image within our viewer. So in QGIS, we'll go up into Layer, Geo-referencer. Now we're going to open that image so it presents on the screen. Cool, so here we can see that image. I'll make it big screen. Now what we're going to do with this crosshair that we've got here is click on a known point that we have. We're then going to type in the coordinates from those set out tables we saw earlier. So if I zoom in here, I can see this control line here is MC30 and the chainage is 64800 at this exact point here. So I'm now going to go to my set out table, take down that piece of data and have it on hand. Here we can see that piece of data for control line MC30 at chainage 64800. The easting and northing is written here. Now, if you do have a platform like Adobe to save your copying and pasting or typing manually, you can select things and then right-click, copy with formatting, and that will then paste nicely into Excel. And then from Excel, you can just copy and paste it as required in QGIS. Assuming you don't, I'll just show you how we can manually type it in. This will be easier if you have two screens, but what I've got on the right-hand side of my screen are those setup tables, and on the left-hand side of my screen is the QGIS geo-referencer. So we're going to start with this point here, 64800. We need to map at least 3 points on each construction drawing so that CivilPro knows how to rotate and position that drawing. Once you've done this once, you don't have to do it again. So for this control line of MC30 at chainage 64 800. I'm going to click here. Before I put this information in here, you can see here we're telling QGIS the source coordinate system. And this is very important because then QGIS knows what these eastings and northings correspond with. This is very useful when we convert from this coordinate system into CivilPro's coordinate system. Now this information here is what we saw earlier within that survey portion of your construction drawings. For the project I had, I know that it was GDA 94, MGA Zone 54. You can type in any of your coordinate systems in here and it will give you a refined list of all of them down through here, and it will show your recently used ones here, so we can keep coming back to the same ones. As I said, this is the one that is suitable for our construction drawings. Cool. Now I go through the process of copying and pasting the data or typing it in for the eastings and northings associated with that reference point we had here. Recall that it's this one here. Cool. Now I'm going to find the next point that I'm going to manually input. For greater accuracy, it is good if you use known points spread across the drawing. So I'll use this one here. So I've got control line MC02 and the chainage ending in 071. Again, make sure that this coordinate system from the source files is the same. It should remain the same unless we change it actively. Righto, let's get the last point. All right, here we've got control line MC40 and I've got a chainage here of 70283. Now I appreciate that manually typing in is a bit punishing. As I said, you can use some platforms to use OCR to copy everything out of a PDF and pop it into Excel, and then it just means copy paste, and you won't have any errors. Alright, so now we can make this window bigger because we don't need our construction drawings anymore. We have now nominated these points and we've also nominated the source coordinate system. Now we are going to create that world file that converts or transforms these coordinates into the coordinates that CivilPro needs. Navigate here to transformation settings. So in here we're going to use the transformation type Helmert, and you can look up what each of these mean on the QGIS website. This essentially scales and rotates an image. The target coordinate system, we're going to select this one here, 3857 WS84 Pseudo Mercator. If you don't see that here already, click this button here, search for it up the top, in here, and then double click it to select it. What we're going to do here is create a world file only, and that is that document that will be put together with the image to go into CivilPro. Cool, now when I push OK, it'll save those settings. Now what we want to do is run that transformation. Now what it's going to do now is it's going to create that world file and it's going to put it in the same folder as the image that we used in this example here. So I'll click Start Geo-referencing. Now if we navigate to that folder, we should see a world file in there. Perfect. Here we can see that world file. Out of interest, what's contained in there is a number of these instructions that tell CivilPro where to position the image, how to rotate it, etc. Last step we need to do to get this ready to import into CivilPro is to select each of these, hold down Control, right click, and select Send to, Compressed. This is what will now go into CivilPro. So if we jump back into that CivilPro Image Layers viewer, we can now select Add Geo-referenced Image, and we can drag and drop or find that file. Perfect. And now we can see that that construction drawing has snapped directly to where we want it in CivilPro. And now we can repeat that process for the adjacent construction drawings. Another tip that I'll show you within this window here to make things look good when we're creating our lots and lot maps is we can adjust the opacity of that layer, which is the transparency. To do that, we click Enable Editing, select this edit icon here, and we can change the opacity here. So I'm going to change that to 0.6. That usually gives us a pretty good view within the lot window when we're sketching out our lots or doing our construction drawings. Same process, save that, go into a lot and see what it looks like within the lot creation window. And if you want to make that more transparent or less transparent, you can do that in there. Tried to keep that as high level as possible and only tell you what you need to know in order to get your construction drawings into CivilPro. If you'd like to learn more about coordinate systems and transformations, it's a very deep rabbit hole, so be my guest. But if you have any issues trying to get your construction drawings in here as I've demonstrated, please get in touch. I should note, in the very near future, CivilPro will be doing a lot of the functionality that we've done in QGIS directly inside the platform for that drawing registration and adding those known points. But until then, this is the most powerful way to get your images into CivilPro. See you at the next one. Bye.